promoter abused. And apparently there's some difficulty in handling Protoss Air. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about that lately because the carrier is a lot stronger, and we just got the Hydra nerfed, so it's not.
Yeah, even before I was, I think if I've gotten a lot better at ZVT, my ZVP has been ever since the patch like very low, mostly because if they ever go air, I lose.
Mm,
Maybe with some like I had timings, and after a while I just started saying, okay, fuck it, I'll just end it very early. But if I try to go like for a longer game, I lose every time. And if I remember correctly, this is an example of where I say, okay, what I'm going to do is take a lot of bases, use a lot of links to harass his third and fourth, and
mm-hmm.
delay his economy, and make a lot of corruptors with a lot of upgrades, and then like, well, maybe I'll win. And I think this game is something where I mind like 50 to his 25 or like 60 to 30, and I still lose.
Yeah, so I think one of the decisions that we have to make against Skytoss is we have mineral income. Often we have a mineral income advantage over the opponent. So, what is the most effective expenditure to make with those minerals? So, you made lings and attacked the bases. We'll see how that pans out this game. My initial thought is a Skytoss player usually builds a forge and they make a bunch of cannons at their bases. So, ling run by usually isn't very effective. Massing queens is a better expenditure with the goal of creeping more than half the map. And then you can also support and heal your corruptors with transfuse. So we see the forge going down. They are going warp gate research. Scout a stalker. 6 lings. Your opening build looks fine. It's a little bit counterintuitive how to beat Skytoss. This is a principle that has changed for facing both Terran and Protoss in the new patch, and that is Blizzard buffed the slowest, most high damage units for both Protoss and Terran. The siege tank used to be a unit that we could kind of muscle forward and still kill, whereas now it's incredibly strong wherever the tanks are sieged. So it's usually best to find a way to put on pressure elsewhere. Or just eat more of the map and tech into Broodlords or something.
I've been having like a lot of fun in ZVT, going back to just going into mass muta, which I couldn't do before the Liberator nerf. Like ending the game with just 40 mutas, and then ending it like that, which is fun. But afterwards, we'll talk a little about Terran Mech as well.
Mm-hmm. So 4-minute spores. I would say making 4-minute spore unless you know that they're doing something that does not involve a spore crawler. So if they were going for like 5 sentries at their natural wall in Immortals, and they were obviously going for an Immortal Sentry attack, maybe you could skip them. But 4 minutes is a really good time to make them. And you can also think about the lay of the map and where the opponent is relative to you and which bases are going to get the Oracle first. So it's either probably going to be this base or this base. If the Stargate is in their main, it's probably going to hit your main. Your natural is the safest base, so you could place your spore there third. So like first spore in the main, and then put a spore at the third, and then put a spore at the natural.
Cool.
One of the secrets to beating Skytoss is identifying it as soon as possible. Let's see what your vision is like. You took Overlord speed, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah, you did. Okay, so if they don't have a third, which you did a good job like having a spotter ling, it could be a little bit more forward, but then also this Overlord. If they don't have a base, you should be like really in their face with an Overlord in the main, because this spot right here would tell you everything about what's going to happen. So let's do a series of scout timings. I don't know if I've written this for you yet. I don't think I did. It's not in the previous session's notes. So 4-minute scout, usually tells the 2 base plan, and then 6-minute scout, we'll say 5 to 6, tells the 3 base plan. So if you have the overlord speed upgrade, there's nothing to punish you from flying in and seeing what's in the main, and then running a ling up to the wall.
Just seeing the early cannon and the lack of third and attack, pretty much, I'm like, okay, it's carrier. I wasn't even... It could have caught me by surprise if they had like some kind of 2 base all in, but I was really, like, I remember this game, I was really sure that, okay, they're going for turtle carriers.
Yeah. With the overlord speed upgrade, you can't be killed really by a stalker by the time you scout their whole base. A couple phoenixes could probably make it difficult for you, but if that's the case, you just send in 2 overlords at a time. So I would say it's going to be more valuable than keeping the overlord here to fly it in the natural and then try and fly it into the main. You can do kind of like 2 arms of overlords that both go into their base at the same time. It's guaranteed to scout exactly what they're doing. So 1 ling at each potential expo. So let's say, for example, you scouted the carrier play pretty much right around 5 minutes. Let's go to that point in the game. Or actually, we'll just go to when your overlord speed finished. Another more general way to think about your spending and what you tech into is every time you get an upgrade, it's usually good to think about, can I get value from this upgrade right now? For overlord speed, that's a good example of one that you can just get value as soon as it finishes. And then what you do behind that is you drone really hard, or you make lings to hit a timing or something. You try and have some simple production procedure while you're looking at your overlords that doesn't require you to go back to your bases. So let's see, overlord speed is finishing up right around 5:20. That's totally fine to go for a scout. Let's say this overlord flew over here, and then you would see the fleet beacon right around 5:30. If I saw this, I would drop double evo and take a 4th base immediately and just drone super hard and mass queens. I wouldn't make any offensive units other than 1 ling at each potential expansion. And my plan would be to make a really strong Queen Hydra army so I don't die, and then Infestation Pit so I have Swarm Host and Nidus. The army fighting the carriers is really, really hard to take away, and you have to be super far ahead. Sometimes you can just kill them at their 3rd base with Queen Hydra if you're really far ahead, and if you have creep. But in some games where it's very even, like I played Bowman on this map a little bit ago, the killing move is actually Nidusing a bunch of Swarm Hosts right here, and dropping the Locust on the Stargates and killing all of those. That's a win condition against Skytoss.
That kind of like Nidus Swarm Host play, just really, I guess I'll have to get comfortable with it, but it seems really gimmicky. Like,
well, if you think about it,
work once or twice, and then people will just keep one void ray at that base and just shut it down.
1 void ray won't stop it, and you can also do it from further away. So let's say, I'll load up the game and we'll go over it and talk about it. But let's say you Nidused in the main, and maybe you caught him by surprise the first time, and you killed 1 Stargate, maybe 2 Stargates. If they appropriate some defense over here, then you can account for that, and then Nidus over here, and then fly the Locusts over into the natural. And all during this time, you're creeping the center of the map. That's one potential game plan. So I don't need to tell you how to play against Skytoss. That's one option. So we'll say counter responses to Skytoss. So 1 would be Queen Hydra, Ground Army, couple upgrades into Infestation Pit, or Swarm Host plus Nidus. Okay, second option, which is the option I think that you were trying to go for this game. Spire for upgraded Corruptors with Lings to harass. This is viable. I would say Nidus is good here as well. But the key with the Spire response is still spending all your minerals into queens and creeping a lot. Another response would be Ultra, Queen, Infestor, Hydra. And
The carriers don't prioritize the Hydra? Will the Ultra even take any damage?
yeah, it does. It
Really?
depends on range, yeah. So usually if you're attacking with the Ultras and the Queen Hydra, the Hydra should be your back line. The Queen should be the middle line and the Ultras are the front line. So the AI first encounters the Ultra and says, this is an aggressive fighting unit, I will attack this unit. It should prioritize a unit that can shoot back, but that's only after they come into range. So the Ultra ends up absorbing a lot of the damage just by virtue of being closest to the opponent. So you could try out the different responses and see what fits best for you. But we could say, regardless of which one you end up favoring, scouting the Skytoss transition as early as possible is like a super high priority.
Yeah, at 7 I send in an overload, I see them making carriers.
A finishing drone amount against Skytoss, at least for your first max out, you could probably go up to like 75. Like you went up to 70, that's pretty good.
I think when I'm looking at it now, I'm thinking one of my mistakes was that I created static defense and then didn't like refill my drones to a high enough amount, maybe.
Mm-hmm. If you make lings, they should be on the opponent side of the map. This follows for ZVZ as well, because these aren't accomplishing anything for you being here. It's like you've employed troops and they're just sitting on their asses. So like sitting them there, and they can run back and forth between these bases, it would make it really hard for them to expand, and you could just rush in and kill the base over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
People think Iceman is Masters.
He's about to be.
Actually, they changed the league distribution, so now I'm Diamond 2.
Yeah.
So I was 1 now, but my MMR has been getting higher, which I'm happy about. So what it tags me at is I'm less important for me.
Mm-hmm. Dropping a second Spire is good too, because as you can see here, you have a lot of gas.
Yeah, that's one thing about this game that I was like thinking like, what am I doing something wrong? Because I had a lot more gas than minerals, but it's not that I don't have drones. I have like a lot of drones.
Mm-hmm.
Up to 85 now. 2 is 43.
Corruptor Viper is pretty decent for abducting the carriers. Corruptors deal bonus damage to massive units. They're pretty bad against the interceptors because they're just tiny, really annoying things. But if the Protoss player doesn't have High Templar, then Vipers are a really good unit to go for. If they were to go for High Templar, some ling-bane is a really good counter to that, and lots of Overseers. Also, Ultra is good too. So we'll say Ultra ling-bane Corruptor is another composition. Say you what?
I'm looking at like, I want to see how many resources in mind.
So the idea behind this Protoss strategy is to reach a critical mass. So they can get there as slowly and safely as they need to. It's a very, I would say it's frustrating from the RTS perspective where you feel like you were doing a lot more work than the opponent for a long time. But their plan doesn't really require them to take bases fast. They can't take bases quickly with carriers like this. So one thing that you can do is figure out ways to trade your value with the Protoss. The Corruptor Caustic Spray ability is actually something you should be doing a lot this game. So think about, you have 34 Corruptors right now.
Mm-hmm.
You also have, let's look at the income tab. You have 2,800 mineral to their 1,900, and then you have more gas income as well. Way more workers, which means you can think about using the whole map as a pool of resource and just spraying more and more of that at the Protoss. So flying into the main and picking off as many Stargates as you can, and then pulling out before you lose a whole bunch of Corruptors. Another angle you could take is you fly up on this top side, and then around back here, and then take this third nexus. This is actually really important for them being able to get to their first max out because they expanded so slowly. I saw Vibe doing this against Creature in a highlight. He went for a really fast Corruptor swell against a Skytoss play and just sniped the nexus in the main, and then he couldn't make enough money to finish his carrier max out. And it totally circumvents the cannons because they usually concentrate them in front of the bases, not on all sides. It's too expensive.
My idea was to not let him get a fourth, but I guess even 3 is enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have to focus the carriers with the Corruptors.
I did, but I guess it's a bit too late. But would it have been better to actually target the Void Rays?
No, so with a carrier Void Ray, and you have Corruptors, you want to pull back and wait for a new fight every time they use the ability. Because the ability has a pretty long cooldown, I think. What is it? Is it 13 seconds total? Yeah, so as soon as you see their big blue beams turn on, just fly back for a little bit, keep making Corruptors, and then fly in and take a fight. Because it makes them a lot stronger if your army is pure Corruptor. But Creep Spread and Queens, like, Larva is not important for you at this point. You have, let's see how many hatches. Structures. You have 6 hatches and a hive, so you don't need to inject anymore. You have Corruptor production, Ultras, Queens are better than Lings at this point. Cool. And basically from here you're dead. Okay. They've reached their mostly critical mass. It's still a pretty small army, but the mothership makes it kind of annoying. I put in a note that all of the counter responses to Skytoss involve Overseer.
I tried like the Vipers here, but it's just that they don't. The nerf on that parasitic bomb means it's, I think, kind of ineffective against these units.
Yeah, I would say parasitic bomb is bad against Skytoss. The units are just so beefy.
Here it starts like becoming a game of like cat and mouse when I'm thinking maybe I can get enough lings and snipe his bases, and he uses the mother core to jump back every time, but I don't think we need to continue from here.
Yeah.
It's just depressing.
Okay. So we can do a couple things with that. Would you like to see the response that I was talking about, or practice?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We can also practice a max out with the ling-bane Corruptor style. Think about how to... Here, pass me lead. Yeah, the cost of interceptors was reduced as well, so they can trade them out and it's not quite as impactful. Before, you could kind of go for a bunch of big Queen Hydra timings and they would just run out of money. Would static defense and Vipers work against Skytoss? So if you think about the races in general, Zerg has faster units by move speed that are cheaper by the cost to build them, that are made more quickly by the production time than Protoss. So by having an immediate response of Spore Viper to Skytoss, you let them get that like maxed out critical mass carrier army passively. Whereas if you have a plan for some fighting composition like Ultra ling-bane Corruptor or Queen Hydra, then you can chip away at what they're trying to go for, which is 200 supply of the best units in the game. So the opening build...
These kind of dead-end situations are very frustrating. To think there's a situation where it's don't get here.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, it's fun for the player with the unbeatable army.
I don't know, because I think even that just like, does that like, how good does that feel? Not sure.
I don't know, I'm Zerg. Ask a Protoss. So Bowman's opener is a little bit more well-rounded. His third base is earlier. He has some ground presence, so it's not the pure Skytoss from the beginning that your opponent was going for, but it's similar in the principle of being a pretty much unkillable army. He made a very diverse composition. But the idea here is I've just been droning a whole bunch. Like, notice how many lings I have this game. I don't have any lings this game. I have 86 drones. Mainly from what I've seen. Let's see what my vision is. I see the third base with the gas, which is basically all the information I need. I also see 4 pylons protecting a cannon at the third base, which is another very kind of macro-oriented, that's 2 cannons actually. A very macro-oriented and defensive approach to a strategy. So there's no way for him to punish me droning my 4th base all the way with the gases. I have 4 Hydras patrolling in the main to defend against Prism. And then notice the creep moving forward toward the opponent. If they're playing passive, that's something that you can basically do unpunished. So just having lots of queens bound with your army, some Roach Hydra, and lots of tumors moving toward them. Creep puts on a lot of psychological pressure for a player. It's kind of putting them on a timer. You're against Zerg, and I will swallow the map if you don't stop me. So that means you have vision of all the movements of their army. You have mobility. Your queens can move around really fast. And you can take great engagement with queens at a forward spot, rather than just having queens as defensive units. So I would say whether you do the Corruptor approach to Skytoss or Hydra-based, making lots and lots of queens and creeping a whole bunch with queens in your army would be really good. So the Swarm Host Nidus stuff, I've been trying to figure out the ideal number of Swarm Hosts to deal a lot of damage but not cut into your supply too much. Based on that principle we talked about of Zerg can max out sooner, you do have a little bit of leeway to mix in some harassment units like this that won't necessarily help in a main fight, but are really annoying for the Protoss to deal with. And it also allows you to sometimes take a really good like push at one of the Protoss bases if they pull their army to defend the Swarm Host.
Isn't like, here's what why this kind of thing would never like come to my mind. 15 Swarm Hosts plus the Nidus, doesn't he just A-move into my base and kill me?
No. Not because of the creep. So, what were the principles? If you creep, you have vision and mobility of your queens, which means if your army is here, and you see, oh god, they're pushing across the map, you can run all the way back here before they can actually threaten a base. And they'll usually take their time to kill the tumors, which is another big swarming obstacle in the way. That whole time, you can continue the harassment, like here I just killed a Stargate, and I think I lost the exit Nidus. Whoop. But Zerg can lose an army and remax and fight again pretty quickly. So I would make probably a bunch of Hydras as I traded out my army if they were to push into me. But if you look at the supply, I'm really far ahead, so They can't really beat a Queen Hydra army on creep. He can certainly defend Queen Hydra. He has like tons of cannons, stasis traps, High Templar, Tempests, Void Ray Carrier. Creep is a pretty big deciding factor for a lot of relationships between armies. Like if you just loaded up these two armies in the unit tester off creep, I'm pretty sure my army would lose. But if it's on creep, I think I would trade favorably enough that my Remax units will be able to help, and then eventually tip them over and win. Because Hydras are produced a lot faster than any of these expensive units like Tempest, Void Ray, Carrier. So you can fight and then Remax. That was basically the classic strategy in Heart of the Swarm against Protoss. If you're going for a big Roach Hydra timing, you try and max out with Roach Hydra, you push into them and make more units behind that, and then push again. It's the Remax that really makes Zerg amazing against Protoss. So the Swarm hosts are pushing a base, and the Queen Hydra tries to poke in. I think I lost... No, my Swarm hosts are still alive, lol. That's cool. But now I'm mixing in Broodlords. I think I have... Yeah, I'm going to make a couple mutas to deal with Prism, Harass, and that sort of thing. The creep getting up here.
So about 15 is the right number.
This has been probably the most effective use of it. I've tried having around 7 or 8 Swarm hosts, and it doesn't seem like it can really kill buildings before their defense gets there. So like if I Nidus 8 Swarm hosts into a mech player's main, 8 Swarm hosts, if they have a couple Hellbats and a Viking, it's going to clean it up. But if you have 15, that's a lot bigger of a problem.
The thing is, if I think about like win conditions, against Terran, get on top of their production. Against Protoss, usually if I think about like how do I beat against Protoss, I kill the high-tech units. I kill the high-tech units and I push and they can't defend because their core units aren't strong enough.
Mm-hmm.
With this, I can't kill the high-tech units, and I'm really not sure like, okay, even if I get into a positive situation, their army just, I can never engage it.
Yeah. Well, the only time you should be able to engage a Protoss player's main army is if their opening build was bad and they fell behind economically. Because if you take the example where both players have perfect macro in the early and mid game, the defending player should win the fights because they've had more time to produce units and they didn't have to walk across somewhere to take a battle. So for like carrier-based stuff, you can follow the Sun Tzu principle, use the normal force to engage, use the extraordinary force to win. So my normal force is this Queen Hydra and the Broodlords, and I've been losing a lot of that. The extraordinary force is the Swarm Host Nidus that's able to get on top of their production, like you were saying, versus the Terran players. Protoss still has that same limitation of if you kill all their Stargates, they can't make Skytoss units out of them anymore. And with a super strong Skytoss army composition, they want to keep all of their stuff together. Being divided is not really the strong suit of that type of playstyle. So I really like that approach. You can also just do pretty much exactly what you did the previous game and use the corruptors like your extraordinary force. And you would have your queens, like a bunch of queens, maybe some hydras and some ultras in the mid map that are creeping really fast. And then you have the corruptors kind of on a muta hotkey that go around and kill the bases and production, whatever you can.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And let me show you something else. And from here, I want this is a ZVT, which started with a very strange cheese from the Terran. And what I wanted to gateway file open arrow. Now it's okay. talk about like recovering from crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a game where I thought that, like looking back at it, I'm thinking like maybe if I was thinking more clearly, if I responded more clearly after the initial like cheese, which is a very sharp, you'll see what happens, and I think I could have won this one. Also, the opponent was it was a very large MMR differential.
Mm-hmm.
At a strange like hour, so it was looking for a while, and again it gave me an opponent which was much higher than me in ranking.
Yeah, one of the nice things about facing opponents who are a lot higher than you is they'll give you very refined builds and attacks, and usually it's going to kill you. But then you can look in the replay and think about exactly what your response would have been. Like, I have some of those experiences where I'll play someone like Zest. I got to play him once, and I got to see like a really amazing progression from Protoss. I got to play a live Korean Terran player, and he did a build to me that I've never seen before, and I got to figure out, all right, this is when I would scout. If I saw this, this would be my defensive response. So it's a really great resource to get a replay of dying to a cheese from a player who's a lot better. Magic Gas Pool.
By the way, the new maps are much trickier for overload scouting, I found.
Yeah.
The new old maps, I would say, much harder to like get good spots.
Yep. Like this map, I like this pathing you did with the first Overlord, and then you could probably hover it maybe here. I like having it around this area because you can see if they drive a bunch of Hellions out of their base, or if there are some Reapers or Marines that come. And then if there are Marines, you can fly up to this pedestal, and they'll need some air unit to be able to shoot your stuff.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm sometimes getting too greedy with wanting to get my overload like right over their natural.
Mm-hmm. I like this position actually. That's pretty cool, because then you could fly over to the left and see their production.
Which is what's about to happen, where I see the double starport, triple starport, and even the fusion core.
Oh, is it going to be Cattle Bruiser? Please let it be Cattle Bruiser.
It's Cattle Bruiser.
Nice.
I thought it's gonna be. I was mistaken after I looked. I thought that the Banshee speed upgrade you need the fusion core for. So when I saw this, I didn't think battle cruisers. I thought speed Banshee, and only later I found out that you don't even need the fusion core for the speed Banshee upgrade. But I don't know if I knew this is battle cruisers, I don't know how much different my response would be, because my response was to build a lot of spores.
Yeah, the defense to Skytan is pretty much the same regardless of which units they make. So I'll type out the procedure for you. Basically, you scouted it, which is excellent. You want to make queens, like go bananas on making queens. Like it should be kind of silly how many queens you make. Okay, so you go bananas on the queens, and then you go layer, into spire, into carapace, into 10 to 14 mutas, into mass corruptor, and more carapace upgrades.
You mean carapace on ground or air?
Into viper. Air. You can go ground upgrades. I would say in this case, you have double evo for ground. They're going to be so committed to air. They only have 2 base income, and they have 3 starports. They can't also afford a ground army at all. So you making upgraded ground stuff isn't really going to factor into the main fights that much. I would say just taking the carapace upgrades means your queens are going to be more sturdy. That would be cool. But I wouldn't take 2 upgrades at a time against this. I would want to get that first mutaflock out, because think about the options they have with the starports. One option with starports fusion core, they go for cattle bruisers. The mutas can chase those down and clean them up. They're going to be in pretty small numbers early on. If they go for range liberators, mutas are better at cleaning those up than than corruptors are. And if they go for speed banshees, mutas are better at cleaning those up than corruptors are. The reason you don't stay on mutas the whole time is because critical mass of upgraded liberators can deal with mutas. But there's a window where muta is the better spire unit to make before corruptor. Corruptor is the unit that you make to contest their third and fourth bases later on. That's kind of like the finishing move. The muta is the move to survive their harassment.
Yeah, when I see it, I instantly drop a layer and I start building, I'm thinking 12 spots.
You don't need to go that ham on it. I would take a fourth base, actually. Because the Liberators can't deny a fourth base, Cattle Bruisers can't really deny a fourth base. Yeah, I would just drone. Maybe 3 spores per base if you wanted to be super safe, but Queens are the superior investment because they gain value over time and let you spread creep. So we'll say... You what?
And usually when they go for, I assumed, like I said, I assumed it was Banshees. When they go for like multiple Starport Banshees, I found that like 3 spores, I still can't hold. They can focus the spore and then come in from a different angle and focus the, like... Yeah, but I guess with more Queens I can hold that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you would want to have your Queens on a hotkey too. So this is one thing that is a common theme between the Skytoss game you've showed me and this game, the Skytan game, which is there are certain situations where the opponent commits heavily to air, where the Queens become more like your main army unit, and the Lings become more like your harassment unit. Because the Lings aren't going to be able to do anything to the Cattle Bruisers. That's for your Queens. So what I do in this situation is I'll often put my Lings on my Muta hotkey until my Mutas are out, and I'll just sit at the third base locations and go back and forth and make sure they don't expand. And then I put my Queens on my main army hotkey to deal with the air threat, whatever that is, until my Mutaflock is ready to go. Yeah, so you're pretty much dead at this point. It's kind of amazing, the triple Cattle Bruiser timing in the main.
Do you think there was even a way to recover from this position, or is this position already a loss? Because I did damage, like, I'm seeing, he has a lot more harvesters than
yeah, I would say it's pretty much over from here.
But then again, I had no... But then that means I had no chance to defend either way, because he blinks into my main.
Yeah, it depends on... So we'll get the full checklist of when you scout the Skytan, and we'll go back to that moment where you make the decision. So one thing to focus on is creep connecting your bases. I have a general section for notes, so that was when an upgrade finishes, try to get value from it as soon as possible. Creep connect your bases. Creep hard in general. So in our coaching sessions, I think in one of the earlier ones, the injects was the biggest flaw for you, and we focused really hard on that. Your injects have been a lot better in every game you showed me, and like you said, some games you don't inject well, but you don't show those games, that's fine. But in a game where your injects are on point, really being assertive with the creep spread. So that's the next Zerg fundamental that will help you a lot, because if you don't have creep connection here, at this point, if the Cattle Bruisers, or whether it's Liberators or Banshees, they go into your main, the Queens are going to be really slow getting up to help defend that. But if everything has creep between it, then they can run around really fast like army units, and it's not too hard to defend. Okay, so you fly in, 5-minute scout, boom. Cancel one of your ground evo upgrades. Your lair is going, that's awesome. Take a 4th base, boom. And drone really hard. I would just put your Lings at a forward location, and then make a bunch of overlords and spam Queens. I would take all of your gases, rather than make a bunch of spores. Because you still have a decent amount of time before the units come at you. I think 2 spores per base, 2 or 3. I said 3 maximum in the notes. Is totally fine, but by making this many spores, you went from being way ahead in workers to behind in workers. So it's going to be harder to afford corruptors and more queens if you're effectively killing your drones to make a bunch of spores. And you also want to think about the timing of the spores. So these were made before any unit could have feasibly come across the map and attacked you. So that's a lot of time that it could have been a drone that was mining maybe another 40 resource for you each. So Spire as soon as the layer is done. Yep, you got your Spire. All the queens should be on a hotkey, like every single one, and then you want to be making new queens. Don't make any of these lings at all. Like, those should all be drones. Because that would allow you to transition into a 4th base. Yeah, I think you could have defended this if you ran your queens into the main, it was creep connected, and you transfused the spores. 3 spores per base, transfusing that, having the queens on the main army hotkey. So let's do that, actually. So I'll pull it back. Pull it back to that decision. No, I want to go before you make a bunch of lings.
I scouted it at 5 minutes, so that's...
Yeah. It would be helpful to have an overlord here, but like with how slow they are, you might not be able to get it over there in time. Yeah, we'll go to when the scout happens. Okay, so it's scouted. I'll take the Terran, and then you creep connect your bases, cancel an upgrade, take your gases, and then probably, yeah, do 2 to 3 spores per base, and put all your queens like they're your main army units. You ready for that?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. I'll have the cattle bruisers ready. 3, 2, 1.
Go.
Okay, what button is this? Oh, dude. Triple cattle bruiser production. Yamato cannon? Oh, they saved the camera locations. This player's a god. Okay. Yamato cannons? Oh, dude. Got him. Okay, I think...
Okay, that's that.
This is a funny build. Okay, my third Deuter is about to come out. These take up so much supply. Okay. I'm going into your main, dude.
Amos.
I would make a bunch of spores with your drones in the main.
Oh, the other way around.
Keep massing queens. Did you make a new spire yet?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure. No.
You could also run the lings into my base. This player didn't wall off.
Yeah, he did. I did that in my game, but by the time I actually got in and killed a few things.
God.
I think not all my queens came into the fight when I wanted them.
That first time?
Yeah, I did group them.
Yeah, the Yamato cooldown is super long. Do I even lift? Oh no! Lift! Okay. So I think if you know that cattle bruisers are already out, just going straight into corruptors, because they're already faster than battle cruiser cattle bruisers.
About 8, let's say.
As many corruptors as you can afford. Because this build can't afford any other unit. They made one siege tank, I think. That was it.
Should I be taking the gases at my 4th?
Yeah, dude. Take the gases, go up to like 80 drones.
Okay. And on the ground, like lings and...
Just queens. All your mineral into queen if you have leftover. Queen, drone, corruptor is pretty much what you want to be making.
Yeah, I'm guessing that I need to rethink the queens as more army than I currently think about them.
Definitely. I don't have the teleportability keybound. Queens!
Come here. They're coming.
Do you have
I
corruptors
have
yet?
an army. Yeah, they're on the way. Where are they? They are far away. More queens.
Cattle bruisers are so bad against corruptors. It makes me sad. Well done.
Okay, that was funny. Okay, now a ZVZ. This is a style I have issues with in ZVZ, which is attack upgrade links, and a lot of attack upgrade links, because it really tasks my multitasking. And here is a case where I think I can beat it with Banes, and I can't, which is annoying.
Yeah, I think part of the success of the melee style is they go all in so that they can get on top of your Banes and also just be in all your bases. So like you're saying with the multitasking being difficult. So let's see, the drone scout. Hatch first, gas pool. Cool. Cool. Filling the gas. Okay. So you made 4 lings. Scouting with 2 and defending with 2. Wow. What? Cancel the base. Queens at the ramp. Production. Okay. You would have been fine to let the base finish. You don't need to like use the third base as something, oh goodness, they're attacking me, I'm going to cancel this. Let it finish. Think of it as the total HP of your whole hive cluster, and how the hatch is like the sturdiest thing in the whole game for Zerg. So if they attacked your third base, that buys you time to make more Banes and more Queens and more Lings, rather than, I feel like I can't defend this location. If you can't defend it, you can cancel it when it's about to die. You don't need to like cancel it preemptively. So let's see, you have Lings, you see the Evo chamber. A couple things you can do against this. One would be mass Queens, just to have a really sturdy defense. You see there's no third base, so they're very heavily committed to pretty much killing you with melee Lings. So if you can defend 2 bases with your current drone count, which, let's see, units tab, you have 3 more workers. You could probably have defended 8 at the natural with Queens and stuff. And making some Evos yourself is pretty nice. Just funnel them in one area. And whenever you're making ling-bane against ling-bane and defending, you want to be countering with your Lings and then defending with Bane Queen for the most part, which looks like that's what you're doing. Awesome. Double gas, spire. I think making a couple more spines is good here. I really like your position right now. You have even workers, so making more drones would be really great here, I think. But you're super far ahead in tech. They're going for Lara as well, and they're taking their other upgrade. So here, since you're kind of going for a lead in the 2 base stage and you're trying to take the edge of gas, having a more like full and assertive wall would be good. So maybe Evo, Evo, and then a spine or 2 behind it with the Queens forward and plugging the hole. It makes it a lot cleaner, and then you can just drone your base safely. Rather than here, you have a bunch of ling-bane, which is kind of a soft defense that they can push into. Bane's breaking Evos is really inefficient for cost. So like the Evo you have at the main base could be at the natural. Yeah, they just keep striking in at the natural and getting lots of damage done. Whereas if you plan to go for Muta, just wall off, have some Queens, get your full 2 base saturation with all the workers. Probably around 40 would be good, 40 to 44. Spines are pretty easily knocked down by Banes, actually. So if you have spines, usually you want something to protect those, like Queens to transfuse or some Evos to be a buffer for that. But yeah, I think with this third base cancel decision, it kind of played into their plan more. What I would do here, let's go back to that moment. Did you cancel it yet?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah, you did.
I canceled it when I sent the initial 2 links and ran into like a very large group there.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be like a 2:30 even sooner.
Mm-hmm. I think your Bane nest was a little late, maybe. So one thing that I would change, a couple different solutions here that would be more efficient. So I'll just type them out. It's easy versus heavy ling-bane. Go heavy on Bane yourself and counter with Lings, or wall off and go for Lair. You should basically pick one of those. If you do both of them, then it doesn't really accomplish anything efficiently. But I kind of prefer just going heavy on Banes rather than like making a spine in this situation. Oh no, you're attacking your own Bane. Rip. Yeah, so like spend all of your gas into Bane, pretty much. If you see there's no third and there are a bunch of Lings here, one thing that would make this whole process easier is having an Overlord outside your natural. This should be your third Overlord. First Overlord, you've positioned it perfectly. You can see all the units leaving at the fastest path. Second Overlord is positioned perfectly. You can see the third base location. Third Overlord, I think it's this one.
I usually send the third to some kind of like a wraparound location to see if but I think if my fourth one, the one that's above the natural, should be more out.
Yeah.
Like that's the one that's misplaced.
The reason this one is important is because it tells you exactly how much value they're about to send into your base, so you can anticipate how many Banes they'll be attacking with and how many Lings, rather than you get surprised as soon as they step onto your creep with how big the attack is. And then if you float minerals like this, just mass queens, and then pull your queens down to the natural like they're army units. So, for the kind of collection of all these games, the main theme to work on is queens and their fighting and creeping capabilities. You've gotten a lot better with their injection, so once you have queens that are injecting, understanding when to use queens as an army unit, because the queen is the most efficient mineral expenditure for defense against ling-bane. Lings are blown up pretty easily. Banes are good, but queens are even better than spines because they gain value over time. They can transfuse, they can creep, they can inject. Cool. Well, I think you basically got dead pretty soon there. Did you get, I think I sent you the most recent replay pack, November 18th. That might not be the most recent. Let's see. Replay. There you go. The Bowman game is in this replay pack. There should be quite a few CVCs and CVTs and stuff. So we'll say main focus, queen use for creep and fighting. Feel free to add queens to their own group or to the main army group. Really the only times that you don't want to have queens in the main army group is when your main army is way faster. Like if you have a ling-bane, you don't really want the queens on the same key. The lings can run across the map and hit the opponent really fast, whereas queens cannot do that. They want to be moving with the creep. But otherwise, it's just a really sturdy unit to mix in. Another time would be if you have Ravagers. A Ravager-based army with queens is really silly to control.
I wonder if you mix up the hotkeys so that they don't overlap. Does it know that does it know to address it, or do you still need to switch between the selected caster?
I think you still need to tab between the selected casters. The queen is always on top.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I have a Root Team League tournament here in a little bit.
Best of luck.
Yeah, thanks. Good session. Always nice working with you. Glad to see you're improving.
Thank you.
And I look forward to our next one. So like I said, I'll be visiting my family for the time you listed for the second session. I won't leave until the 19th. I guess that's in like a week and 2 days. So maybe right when I get back, which should be around the 29th, so
okay,
3 weeks or so.
Great. It will get me time to get ready for the next patch, whatever they're planning.
Maybe we'll get some buffs this time.
Yeah, I sincerely doubt they're going to keep it as is. It's a bit silly at the moment.
Swarm them.
Indeed.
Later, dude.
Later.
Cool.